Getting married is an absolute blast, right? A total life-changing milestone. But, well, once the honeymoon phase settles down, you're usually staring down the barrel of a massive administrative chore, the post-marital name change. If you've looked at the sheer number of places you need to update your name, you're probably feeling a bit overwhelmed. But hey, don't sweat it. In this explainer, we're going to take this totally daunting, bureaucratic maze and transform it into a super clear, stress-free checklist. We're going to break down exactly what you need to do, and honestly, more importantly, the exact order you need to do it in.
Let me ask you something. Did you know that changing your name in the wrong order can literally freeze your tax returns, delay your benefits, and even ground your honeymoon flights? Yeah, no joke. It's a startling thought, isn't it? There are all these hidden bureaucratic traps out there, and if you don't follow the right sequence, just a simple paperwork update can completely upend your daily life.
Okay, let's dive into this. The reason this sequence matters above all else comes down to this big concept called the systemic dependency cascade. Basically, it's just the reality that federal, state, and provincial databases are intrinsically tied together. They're like a giant digital puzzle. So if you try to update a secondary document, like a driver's license or maybe a tax record, before you've updated your primary identity record, the system is just going to automatically reject it. They cross-reference each other constantly, meaning order is absolutely everything.
So here is our reassuring, structured roadmap for safely navigating this maze. First, preparing for the change. Second, that dependency cascade we just talked about. Third, the step-by-step government updates. Fourth, updating property and deeds. Fifth, dealing with professional licenses and credentials. And finally, step 6, the final steps and our disclaimer.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, preparing for the change. These are your essential pre-change steps.
The absolutely most crucial first step here is gathering your evidence. You're going to need your marriage certificate, your current photo ID, and in some specific cases, say you're hyphenating, creating a brand new name, honoring a cultural tradition, or keeping a maiden name for work, you might need a court order or a deed poll. But listen, here is the absolute golden rule. You must gather original or certified copies of these documents straight from the issuing agency. Scratch the idea of using photocopies or notarized versions. They are universally rejected across the board. Actually, a quick pro tip, go ahead and order 2 to 4 certified copies of your marriage certificate right away, because you're probably going to need to mail them out to a bunch of different agencies all at the same time.
Moving right along to Section 2, the dependency cascade and figuring out where you need to change your name first.
And this brilliantly illustrates how your very first step actually depends entirely on where you live. If you're in the US, your anchor is the Social Security Administration. Over in the UK, you're generally looking at the Passport Office or the DVLA. Up in Canada, you actually start by tackling your tax records with the Canada Revenue Agency. And for folks in Australia, it's the Birth, Deaths, and Marriages Registry along with your passport. So while these initial anchor agencies definitely differ by region, they all serve the exact same foundational purpose. They establish a new legal identity first so that every other secondary institution down the line can verify it. Which brings us to Section 3, step-by-step government updates, or what we call the core ID process. Let's see how this strict sequence actually builds, using the United States as our prime example here. Step 1. You submit Form SS5 to the Social Security Administration. You literally cannot skip this. Step 2. You take that brand new Social Security card, along with your marriage certificate, straight to the DMV to update your driver's license. And hey, while you're there, it's highly recommended to upgrade to a real ID. Then Step 3 is updating your passport. Here's the catch, though. If you march into the DMV before Social Security has processed your new name, the DMV's computers will check the database, see a mismatch, and flat out reject your application right on the spot. You also really need to realistically plan for wait times, especially if you have upcoming travel. To put this into perspective, the average wait for an in-person Social Security appointment in the US is right around 34 days. That's over a month. And once it's finally processed, you're looking at another 7 to 10 days just to get the physical card in the mail. Meanwhile, if you happen to be a UK citizen living overseas, updating your passport takes a guaranteed 3 weeks. Mapping out these timelines is absolutely crucial so you aren't stuck without valid ID when you need it the most.
You've also got to keep an eye on the costs, because updating your name is this wild mix of totally free services and out-of-nowhere fees. For instance, updating your US Social Security card or your UK driving license is completely free. But if you want to update your UK passport online, that's going to run you £102. Always check the official agency websites before you start so you aren't caught off guard by random processing fees.
And speaking of being caught off guard, get this fascinating quirk from Canada.
If you are changing your last name there, the Canada Revenue Agency will not accept your update via email or through their fancy online portal. No way. You are strictly required to pick up the phone, dial them directly, verify your identity, and update your records the old-fashioned way. Every single country has its own unique procedural quirks like this, so it seriously pays to read the fine print.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 4, updating property and deeds. This is all about protecting your biggest assets.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how your geographical location literally dictates your property rights the exact second you say, "I do." In common law states, property generally belongs solely to whoever's name is right there on the title. But if you live in a community property state, most of the property you acquired during the marriage belongs equally to both spouses, no matter whose name is actually on the deed. If you do want to add your spouse to your house's title, you're typically going to use a quitclaim deed or a warranty deed, and that has to be officially recorded with your county.
But I need to give you a stark warning here, especially if you're ever navigating a refinance or a separation. As Worldwide Land Transfer points out, removing someone from a title doesn't automatically remove them from the mortgage. See, the title determines ownership, but the mortgage determines who actually has to pay the bill. Assuming a title change magically absolves someone of their mortgage debt is a really dangerous legal trap. Always consult with a real estate professional or a title insurance agency before you start altering property deeds.
Moving on to Section 5, Professional Licenses and Credentials. This one is all about healthcare and legal syncing. If you're a healthcare worker, you actually have your own specialized, high-stakes dependency cascade. Step 1 is updating your state licensing board, like the Board of Nursing, which usually means uploading your certified marriage certificate to their online portal. Once the state recognizes the new name, you move to Step 2, updating your Federal National Provider Identifier, or NPI, online. And only after your NPI is locked in can you move to Step 3, which is modifying your federal DEA registration. If these databases don't sync up perfectly, your insurance claims can be denied and your ability to practice could literally be interrupted.
Okay, we are in the home stretch. Section 6, Final Steps and our disclaimer. Let's finish this whole process safely.
Before you do anything else, please listen to this major cautionary tale. Charlie Financial advises, think about timing. Make sure your name change is complete before booking flights. Mismatched names create complications at airports. Literally, if you book your honeymoon flights under your shiny new married name, but you haven't had time to update your physical passport yet, you could easily be denied boarding at the gate. Always travel under the exact name that currently matches your physical ID.
So the crucial point is this: patience is a virtue here. You should really only tackle your Tier 3 updates. We're talking your bank accounts, your employer's payroll, credit cards, utility bills, and even your Netflix subscription after your core government IDs are completely processed and resting physically in your hands. Banks and employers are almost always going to ask to see your updated driver's license or passport as proof before they'll even think about changing their own records.
As we wrap this up, I do need to give you a quick, important disclaimer. This explainer provides general guidance based on our source material. Procedures, fees, and legal definitions can and do vary widely depending on your state, province, or country. So please, always consult your local government websites or legal professionals to get the exact requirements for your specific, unique situation.
Look, changing your name is basically a journey of 100 little steps. But by understanding this dependency cascade, gathering your certified documents early, and attacking your checklist in the exact right order, you can completely avoid the headaches and all that frustrating red tape. So with this roadmap in hand, are you ready to master the cascade and confidently reclaim your new identity? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, best of luck with your updates.